Y-
You know, with Douglas citing off those statistics, I mean, 50% of British Muslims. Now, I wish that we got a little bit more into the details of that poll. Are these, first generation, British born? That would be second generation. What are the different dynamics? But still, 50% of British Muslims want to make being gay a lockable offense. Uh, Look, everybody can have your opinion on that, or what in terms of what do you think about uh, the gay movement, gays in general, LGBTQ. Um, should they it be called a marriage or should it be called civil union? You've got all those different questions, partnership, arrangement, whatever you want to call it. But the fact to make it a lockable offense, that's just absolutely absurd and delusional. And then the other poll that he's citing, where 50%, up to three quarters of the British Muslim population would not at least think about or turn in somebody that they knew was, going to commit some type of a terrorist plot. I just find those statistics just absolutely mind blowing. I mean, what if a lot of them target these Islamists? They target Muslim communities. So I don't know if it's that they're out of fear that they're saying that or scared. I mean, these polls are taken, on the phone or online or somehow. So nobody has to know. Maybe, in public they say one thing, but in private they say something different. But still, folks, even if you cut those numbers down and you say, okay, that's too high, you know, three, 75%, you went down to 40%, to 50%, to 25%. Those are still huge, huge numbers. And you go, that's the thing. What happened to, good of country? What happened to the nation? What happened to patriotism? I mean, how is it that, terrorism, extremism is trumping patriotism? That just, unbelievable. And what Douglas is saying is that, yes, the politicians, maybe back then they, but they know now, if you go back a few decades, they know what happens when you start bringing in huge numbers of migrants. But the problem is, most of these politicians, when they get into power and they get into the halls there where they're making these policies and making these laws, and then they get swayed, and then there's lobbyists, and then they're being told by everybody in the press and the liberal media and the academics and everybody that globalism is good, open borders is good, multiculturalism is great. Oh, don't worry, they'll assimilate. They'll assimilate, and even if it'll take them some time. Everybody else is assimilated, but they don't realize that there's certain populations that are out there that just will not assimilate and integrate. They just won't. Because the differences between their culture and the culture of Western European culture is so different. Now, their children will, and their great grandchildren will, but the first generation or the first people that are coming, it's going to be very difficult for them, especially if they're coming in mass, especially if they're uneducated, especially if they have no, um, labor skills or social skills. They just continue to go and flock to those areas of population density where other minorities and migrants and ethnicities from the same region or locality of the world where they came from, that's where they go. They ghettoize those areas, and that's where you start sometimes these seeds of extremism start to fester and foment in those areas. Anyways, folks, that's what we have on tap for you today. We got more Douglas Murray. You're watching the Dr. Nasser Sheikh Show. I'm your host. My name is Dr. Nasser, and I give you my political prescription from my political perspective of what happens when you get Douglas Murray in a debate or in a speech, and all these things collide: culture, immigration, ethnicity, heritage, politics, policy, government, religion. They come crashing together. Let's get to more of Douglas Murray right from. Well, Douglas Murray there pulling no punches in his part of his debate there, basically stating the facts. And I guess what he basically said is that where Western democracies have been formed on reason or utilize reasoning, the Islamic uh, countries are based on revelation. But there is no such thing as a truly Islamic government. There are governments out there that claim to be Islamic. Some of them are Islamic, some of them are more of the Islamist nature, but there are ones that are trying to integrate, like Dubai, United Arab Emirates, some of those that are trying to um, become more quote unquote westernized, if that's a word that you want to use in those countries. Uh, but still, the fact is, the majority of them, yes, they've got all different forms of Islamic government. And when people from those countries, the economic migrants or other places, sub-Saharan Africa, when they migrate to Western European countries, they bring a lot of baggage with them. Now, I'm not talking in terms of the religious. If the with the religious baggage, is that okay? They're going to have their religion, but the question becomes is how much of the religion, to what extent, to what extreme do they want to go to implement that religion in the Western European countries that they finally settle in, rather than basically saying we are now in another country and we've got to obey the laws of the land, and we can't incorporate our laws, or we don't want to incorporate our laws into laws of Western democracies. I mean, and the other thing is where some people in the crowd, again, you've got people that just literally have their heads stuck in the sand. They're booing because the thing is, they don't want to be seen as being politically incorrect. They don't want to be seen and hit with the R word, racist, the B word, bigot, the I word, Islamophobe. You know, they don't want to do that. The virtue signal, it may not be affecting them because maybe they don't live in those populated areas, those areas that are now become colonized and ghettoized with economic and migrants, illegal immigrants. And so it doesn't affect them as much. So again, the elite class versus, the classes versus the masses, it all just boils down to that point, folks. If it doesn't affect you, then you can easily stand atop your perch and shout down to the crowd with your shining halo that you polished the night before and say, yeah, multiculturalism, globalism, open borders is great. It's like millionaires saying, we need to pay more taxes. Well, you can. No one's stopping you from paying more taxes, but it sounds good. So everybody at the bottom is going, hey, that millionaire up there, man, that's a good guy. He wants to pay more taxes. I like him. Yeah. And that guy has a whole slew of lawyers for all his businesses, trying to find every which way in which to screw the government out of the tax money that he owes to try to minimize that. It's all virtue signaling, folks. And all Douglas basically is pointing out is that if you want to have this conversation, you have to have an honest one with honest people sitting down at the table. And that's what it's going to take. If you can get those kind of people at the table to at least be honest about it with intellectual integrity, then you might decide what direction you want to go and how to proceed from there. Anyways, folks, we appreciate you taking the time to watch. You've been watching the Dr. Nasser Sheikh Show. I've been your host. My name is Dr. Nasser. If you haven't done so already, we'd love for you to subscribe to the channel, like, share, and follow. You all know what to do. Take a look at our links above and below. Love to hear, share your comment in the comment section. My final thought is always, when you're right, you're right. And when you're left, you're wrong. Until next time, folks, take care and stay safe.